Welcome to a Fresh Perspective podcast, catering to the latest in ingredient trends, consumer insights, and food news. Brought to you by Corbion.
Welcome to a Fresh Perspective podcast, the podcast where we talk about everything food. Today's guest is Dave Green with the Wheat Quality Council. He's the Executive Vice President. I'm your host, Jenni Kulzer, and hi, Dave. Welcome.
Hi, well, glad to be here.
I'm so excited to have you.
Thanks.
I'm hoping that you can kick us off today by telling us a little bit about the Wheat Quality Council and how it got started.
So we're an obscure group in the industry for sure, and basically this got started after World War II. And so if you can picture, during World War II, the United States was filled up with running our flour mills as much as we could, feeding the world,
Right.
sending food to Asia and to Europe. And in those circumstances, everything was devoted to producing calories, to feeding people. So it was the raw flour that was important.
Right.
And so none of the bakers complained. Everybody was happy because they were getting flour and getting fed. After World War II, it didn't take too long to rebuild flour mills and grain elevators around the world, and that's exactly what happened. And by 1948-49, we found out in the country that we had lost over half of our demand for flour. So
In the United States.
In the United States, the demand had plummeted, not because people were eating less, but because we weren't exporting all of those products around the world. So very quickly, once the dynamics changed of supply and demand, the bakers then became a little more involved in the supply and demand situation. And they
Sure.
came to the millers and said, you may have gotten away with this during the war, but we want to make good quality bread, and we want to make good quality bagels and pizzas and products. And so they started to demand and put the flour mills against each other, trying to get competitive, make them competitive, and meeting their needs for their products. And that prompted then the millers to finally address this issue, saying, we need to get involved with the wheat breeders, we need to get involved with the commodity groups so that we can eliminate these bad varieties that are giving us bad quality and continuing to improve quality over time throughout the country.
Give me some examples of bad quality wheat. Like what were they trying to get away with?
Well, get away is not the right word, but it was the varieties that were available to the farmers. The farmers are always going to grow the wheat that's going to yield the best to them. That tends to give them the best return on acre. So they want
weight wise?
bushels per acre. Yeah, they
Okay.
want more off of an acre of land than otherwise. So the farmers are always interested in as much product as possible. Some of the wheat varieties had no finished product quality. They were too hard to mill. They had disease issues. When you baked bread out of them, it wouldn't hold the water. It wouldn't rise and hold the gas in the dough. So there were a lot of varieties that were quickly abandoned by the farmer and the flour millers as they had an opportunity to grow and plant and buy something better.
Because those sounds like those are major problems.
It was a big problem.
Yeah.
and what you found was, in our organization, all the major milling companies are involved with us. All of the plant breeders, both from universities and from the private companies, enter trials into our Wheat Quality Council trials. So it is an important issue, and there's a lot of participation from the industry to get these new wheat varieties evaluated. One of the things I'd say is what we do actually is we go to the plant breeders and get their elite varieties, the ones that they're getting ready to release to the farmer, and have those grown side by side with check varieties, the ones that we know about. And those check varieties, then we know how those bake, and we grow these new varieties next to them. We mill them under code, send them to our cooperators, and then all the milling companies will bake them into bread or whatever product they want, and then give feedback then to the plant breeders saying, we like this variety, we don't like this one, we need more of this. Here's the things we're looking for now in our bakeries. And so all of these opportunities to share and provide information back to the plant breeders on what the industry wants.
Okay, so the Wheat Quality Council was formed out of a necessity, right? So in order for the industry to get what they needed, what they wanted out of the quality.
Sure.
So now we're taking that a step further and saying, okay, we have what we need, but there could be better varietals out there. And that's what you're looking at.
Constantly. The thing that may not make sense is wheat varieties, as they are given to the farmers, only have a lifespan of like 4 to 7 years. After that time, the diseases have adapted to them, and they all become susceptible to more and more diseases over time. They get worn down, is what happens. Well, actually, the diseases genetically modify themselves and start to attack. So these varieties are constantly being replaced around the country and around the world, because if you grow them too long, they get obsolete. They don't yield as well. They have more problems. So it's a continuous process where every year we look at the new varieties and provide evaluations for them.
So you have to constantly do this. You can't stop.
No, well, certainly you could stop, I guess, but no. This is a project around the country with spring wheat, with winter wheat, and with soft wheat that we have these grow outs planned every year. New varieties are entered by the breeders every year, and the millers evaluate them. So I would think this is going to be a project that's going to continue forever.
Okay. Excellent. So what did last year's crop look like? Or are we in this year's crop? Where are we at right now?
Yeah, it's they always say that we're only 6 months away from a wheat harvest somewhere in the world. You know, something's always being harvested. But for last year, we had good quality crops, which is what my segment of the industry is interested in. It was drier than normal in most places, and so we tended to have nice high protein, good baking performance last year. This year, the crop that they're just harvesting now, they're starting in Kansas now as we speak, has been very dry. We've had a lot of drought in the Midwest, and there's a lot of wheat that's not going to be harvested. It's going to be abandoned is the term. So they just plow it up or spray it dead with something and then try to plant corn or some other crop afterwards. So Kansas has had a horrible crop this year, as has Oklahoma, Nebraska, Texas. There's been a big drought. So production-wise, we're much lower than last year in production.
So it's not worth harvesting.
It gets to a point where it's not worth harvesting, and that's determined by how much the yield per acre is going to be. So the farmer knows if he fires up all of his tractors and his combines to go out in the field and harvest, and trucks, he needs to have 5 to 10 bushels an acre just to pay for that gas.
Sure.
So if he's got a crop that isn't going to do that, then he'll just turn it into his insurance company.
So it's not worth it at that point.
It's not worth harvesting for. And again, in the trade, they would call that abandonment. I think this year it's about 30% of all the winter wheat planted in the Great Plains is going to be abandoned.
Wow. So does that create a shortage then?
It does. It certainly creates a higher price for the farmer, and yes, it's not. We're fortunate in this country that we grow enough wheat to export about half of it. So as a country now, we're using half the crop we grow, we export the other half. When we don't have that half to export, we probably won't, and we'll use it ourselves.
I see.
So it's not like we're going to run out, but it'll become more scarce and a little higher priced over time.
Sure, that's what scarcity does, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so as the Wheat Quality Council, can you foresee what's going to happen with the next crop that's coming?
No, only because we've got a situation in the wheat quality program that a lot of the quality that the bakers see, the changes in quality, are caused by the environment, which we can't control.
Right.
So we have genetically better and better varieties that are high quality, that are going to perform better for the bakery. That's what we're working on. But you're always overwhelmed during the year if it doesn't rain, or if it rains too much, or if it freezes or something. So there's all kinds of weather events that probably have more to do with quality that the baker sees than the genetic side that we deal with.
So then how do the mills deal with that? Do the mills change how they process that type of wheat when they actually receive the ones that isn't abandoned in?
Yeah, so they actually all run a crop survey. And basically what we do is we send people out into the country to the elevators and grab samples as the crop is being harvested from country elevators or from farmers themselves. And we'll send those back to either the corporate laboratory or to private laboratories and for analysis. And we'll compare then the protein level, the moisture level, the yield per acre, all of those things that we would look at for quality, and compare those to last year by crop area. So all of the millers are accumulating, think of it as a catalog. They're accumulating a catalog of what wheat's available, where it's available, and how much it's going to cost. And the mills then will start to buy from the areas that they need to and avoid areas that they don't want to buy from. So if we have poor wheat, if it's rained too much in Oklahoma and the wheat's sprouted and no good for milling, that information will get communicated and the grain buyers then will stay away from those areas. So the mills are all about new crop. I mean, the millers are just, this is the big event of the year. So they're all about, where are we going to get our wheat from to run our flour mills around the country and keep our customers happy. This all depends on, the whole business is trying to keep your customers happy at the least possible cost. So
Sure.
trying to find wheat that is available, that is consistent, and then having it shipped to your mills and meeting the customer needs is what the mills do every day.
We'll continue this discussion on the next episode of a Fresh Perspective podcast. Until next time, preserve what matters.